But when actually there is a bad opinion, the professor very wrong opinion, and no matter how much the person wants to prove, everything gets attenuated, everything gets diminished actually. So this is the principle actually. The Lord is always in the favor of the living entity, and that is the point actually. So therefore, what the Lord is seeing is that at any given point of time, and all the time actually, and yes, a little bit a devotee is able to do Krishna consciousness, and a little bit now he comes back on track. The Lord is ready to give him all mercy actually. This is so amazing actually, and this principle is extolled so beautifully and wonderfully in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. So what are the examples Bhagavatam is teaching us actually? Bhagavatam teaches us the example of Ajamila. So Ajamila is a devotee, he was a devotee, but then he wasted his whole life actually. At the fag end of 80, he had the smallest son, whose name he happened to keep, Narayan. So that means from his, uh, from an age of 20 to 80, practically he wasted his life. That's what it means actually, because he was young. So from 2025 to 80, practically wasted his life. So now the question comes is that Ajamila, how could he perfect his life? Because he wasted all his life and little bit remain. How could he perfect his life? So this, we see this actually, then we can understand that this is exactly the mercy of the Lord, who's just looking that okay, now the person is set right and he's walking on the right path. No problem, let's take him. So this is so amazing actually. This is so amazing, and the Lord's mercy is so glorious actually. Similarly, we see the life of there are other examples in Bhagavatam. We see the life of Pururava Maharaj. How many thousands of years he wasted? And simply enjoying sensual pleasures. And then first time he enjoyed, and then he lost, Mother Urvashi, she left actually. But then again he performed tapasya, and again he got Mother Urvashi, and then again he was enjoying, and then he got frustrated finally. Actually. So this goes to show that he wasted thousands of years actually. But then because again he was set right back, and the Lord saw that Lord saw that now he is on a positive curve, a continuity curve, and therefore the Lord was ready to give him all mercy. So this thread is such an important and amazing thread actually. And Krishna is telling, Mami Partha Vipatishya, just take shelter of me and be on the positive curve of taking shelter, not dwindling off actually. Similarly, we see that in our own lives also we have wasted so much of time, so much of energy, and in gathering so many different kinds of conceptions. But then now, having taken to Krishna consciousness, we should just try to absorb ourselves in surrendering to Krishna. No need for any kind of fear, any kind of hesitation from our side. Actually, this is the nature of the Lord. It is such a glorious path, actually. That now that everything is set right, now that we are in Krishna consciousness, the Lord is ready to take charge fully. Therefore, bhakti is a glorious path, because the Lord is completely ready to take charge, no matter what, actually. No matter what. So this understanding helps us to clearly understand the Tattva of Bhakti. It is the Supreme Lord who is so loving, who is so much of a well-wisher, and He is wanting to help us actually. And if we just maintain that position of taking shelter of the Lord in a continuous scale, all help is given to us. All mercy is given to us. All help, all mercy is given to us. So this exactly is the nature of Bhakti, which is explained here. And therefore Prabhupada is making the point that yes, everyone is eligible for the supreme destination. The Lord makes up for everything. This is the nature of the spiritual. We see that uh, uh, we see therefore the same symptom, when it is applied, the same fabric of or the same principle actually in application we can see in Lord Chaitanya's pastime of say Mahaprakash Leela. In Mahaprakash Leela actually uh, the devotees when they were being when the limelight was on them actually many of them were feeling embarrassed and just like many of them actually just like Olaveja Sridhar. He heard the Lord Chaitanya is calling. He was feeling so unqualified. He was telling, "What I don't have any qualification to go in front of the Lord." But then the point that the Lord is called and all that was so amazing. Just remembering the Lord, he was in such deep ecstasy, he fainted. So devotees had to lift him up and take him because so many of them actually. And similarly, Mukunda, the Lord was calling him. But then he was in great ecstasy that the Lord one day will give me his mercy, and he was jumping up and down and dancing and in great absorption. He didn't hear. He was not listening on this. The Lord is calling him, the devotees are calling him. Again, devotees have to lift him up and take him. So we see when the Lord was zooming on these devotees, uh, then they were a little embarrassed. But they were very concerned and vigilant about others whom the Lord has not called. That why is the Lord not calling? And why is the Lord not giving his mercy yet? So this is the spiritual principle. This is the principle of love actually, which is all encompassing. It does not see who comes, now what is the qualification, but it sees that yes, everyone should receive the mercy of the Lord. Everyone should get out the entanglement of the Lord. This is this is the consciousness of spiritual love actually, and it's get manifested even amongst sincere devotees. Because when they see, they don't see it's a fallen person, it's an arrogant person, it's a person conditioning, but they see, yes, why is he not getting mercy? Why? And he should also get mercy. And everyone should get mercy. This is spiritual love actually. We see that in large pastimes. Thus, it is such a beautiful meditation to just meditate upon the nature of bhakti. How the nature of bhakti is so glorious. How the nature of bhakti is so glorious. Anyone and everyone can be purified. And therefore, actually, uh, when we deal with devotees, we should see that actually the devotees are continuously engaged in Krishna consciousness. And therefore, Vaishnava Seva means to arrange facilities in such a way so that everyone is comfortable to make their offerings to Krishna and in this way go on advancing. Because if they are positively connected to the Supreme Lord and engaged, there is no doubt they will 100% get purified. So Vaishnava Seva means actually to create facilities in such a way everyone is able to serve Krishna, everyone is able to get connected to Krishna. That is Vaishnava Seva. And when we deal with outside people, materialistic people, we should present Krishna consciousness in such a way so that they feel attracted to get connected actually. Because if they are connected, the process of bhakti is so glorious. Actually. And the Lord is telling just remain connected and just remain taking shelter actually. And whatever time is wasted, no problem. Whatever conditionings are occurred, no problem. Huh? The Lord will settle the accounts in due course of time. He only wants to see that we are engaged. We are engaged. Therefore, Prabhupada is making the point in the purport that the most simple man Taking shelter of the pure devotee can be purified by proper guidance. All it requires is simplicity of heart to accept, to follow. The simplicity of heart, the attitude of taking guidance, developing cherished attachment for the devotees, the advanced devotees, and in this way, being engaged in the process of devotional service. This is what it takes actually, which the Prabhupada is pointing out here. So Prabhupada is so beautifully pointing it out here actually. The process of bhakti. The process of bhakti. So that means actually, just like, this is just like, people make, say for example, the Lord has, in this way, kept such a buffer record that nobody can surpass. Just like people make, say for example, bridges. Now, bridge can only sustain us, or withstand a certain amount of strength. But then what happens is that, that even the greatest of the vehicles and the full load on the bridge doesn't come to even half of the actual strength for which it is made of. So that means that the bridge is very strong actually. Nothing can shake it actually. Nothing can shake it. It can withstand everything. So similarly, the process of bhakti, the Lord has deals in such a way actually that no matter how fallen a person is actually, it doesn't surpass the Lord's buffer of robustness. The process of bhakti is like that actually. It has such a strong uplifting capacity, like that. So whether it's just like lifting, lifting, lifting a small child or lifting an elephant, the Lord's lifting capacity, the process of bhakti like that, the lifting capacity is huge. Anybody, everybody, anytime, all the time. This is a beautiful nature of bhakti which we can see, and beautiful nature of bhakti which we can see. Therefore, in bhakti, there is no scope of unnecessary comparisons. There is no scope of high or low, good or bad. Bhakti is very amazing. That we rejoice. The focus of a devotee or sadhaka should be that he's focusing on mercy, and sometimes we are getting mercy and we can rejoice and we be grateful. And sometimes others are getting mercy and we can rejoice and be grateful. There's the meditation about mercy, but the process of yoga is the meditation about mercy. It's not the meditation about the drought. It's not the meditation about hunger, thirst, acute lacking. It's a mercy about fulfillment. It's fulfillment here, it's fulfillment there, it's fulfillment there, it's fulfillment here. That is the Lord's pastime actually. Lord's pastime is all fulfilling and all auspicious. So at some point of time it's auspicious here, at some point of time it's auspicious there, like that. So in this manner, we see that the process of bhakti is all auspicious actually, and a devoted meditation should be on this fulfillment actually. Meditating on this fulfillment actually, the devotee learns to meditate on the Lord's pastime. This is his pastime actually. That how the Lord gives mercy to various kinds of people, and how the Lord gives mercy to us in our own life actually. Yeah. And this is the key remembrance which one should inculcate in his life actually. And nothing else is of any importance. Nothing else is of any value. It is simply the Supreme Lord how mercifully arranges everything in our life, and is giving us an opportunity to not uplift us, and is giving us an opportunity to offer our love and service to Him. That itself is everything, as we can see. So in this way, Prabhupada says that one can take complete shelter of Krishna, take shelter completely of Krishna, and then one can become much greater and the great Dhyanis and Yogis. Text 33. Kim punarbrahmana punya bhakta rajarsaya satha anityam asukham lokam imam prapya bhajasvamam. How much more this is so of the righteous brahmanas, the devotees, and the saintly kings. Therefore, having come to this temporary miserable world, engage in loving service to me. In this material world, there are classifications of people. But after all, this world is not a happy place for anyone. It is clearly stated here, Anityam, Asukham, Lokam. This world is temporary and full of miseries, not habitable for any sane gentleman. The world is declared by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be temporary and full of miseries. Some philosophers, especially Mayavadi philosophers, say that this world is false, but we can understand from Bhagavad Gita that the world is not false, it is temporary. This is the difference between temporary and false. This world is temporary, but there is another world which is eternal. This world is miserable, but the other world is eternal and blissful. Arjuna was born in a saintly royal family. To him also the Lord says, take to my devotional service and come quickly back to Godhead, back home. No one should remain in this temporary world, full as it is with miseries. Everyone should attach himself to the bosom of the Supreme Personality of Godhead so that he can be eternally happy. The devotional service of the Supreme Lord is the only process by which all problems of all classes of men can be solved. Everyone should therefore take to Krishna consciousness and make his life perfect. So we see this temporary and permanent. What is this temporary and permanent actually? We see this temporary and permanent very much has to give and take with the nature of the living entity. We see that the nature of the living entity is infinitesimal, and the nature of the Supreme Lord is infinite actually. So so now with the infinitesimal, now if the infinitesimal is the pivotal center, then what comes out is temporary. And if the infinite is a pivotal center, what comes out is permanent. So this is just like actually a small infinitesimal is like a dx element actually, a differential element actually, a delta x element. So the delta x element, you know, can have a high value only for a short amount of time. Actually. It's infinite. It's a temporary. So, so this fits in very nicely. That this material world, things can be wonderful, things can be bombastic, things can be very amicable, but only for a very short period of time. That's the meaning of temporary. That anything wonderful will only last for a short period of time because the nature is temporary actually. So and that fits very nicely with the that is how basically the living entity and no, his nature fits in. A living entity is a pivotal focus. Is in a setting or a group where things can be wonderful, but only for a short period of time. This is Krishna's allowance actually, which is the best what can happen. But then when one adds the Supreme Lord, he adds the infinite aspect to the eternal aspect. In this world, actually, we see that people always try to uh, people always try to make things better and better. Actually, so the original attempt of or the original mistake is falling into this material world, which has worsened the things. And now, if we evolve actually towards the Supreme Lord, then things can become better and better in terms of experience. Otherwise, it's otherwise it will only solve the problem for a short period of time. And so this is what we see actually. Therefore, we see that the living entity always wants to perpetualize things. People go for government jobs, they want pension. Huh? Okay, the salary is coming till a person dies. People want to save money, they want to perpetualize their accounts, financial management. People want to, make a home as early as possible, their own house, so that there are no hassles later. Some people they want to, uh, or make an extra house so that rent will keep coming throughout life. They don't have to worry about finances. So people always want to perpetualize things. This is the nature of the living entity actually. The living entity's nature is to be with the eternal actually. But the problem is that the living entity's nature is to be with the eternal. But the problem is that when it is without Krishna, it can only give a delta element. It can only give a delta function spike actually. And that delta function spike actually only aggravates the matter and nothing else. Is it not? Just like we see that, uh, uh, say for example, sometimes in voltage it happens. There is a spike which comes, and that spike actually comes and goes, but then it burns off, the coils like that. Similarly, earthquake is also like a spike. It is a huge value. It comes and goes. Everything is destroyed. Similarly, actually, we see these material spikes actually will destroy everything. Honestly. Yeah. So, therefore, the Lord is saying that. So what is the purpose of life is to go to this eternal blissful world. What are we doing? Simply in this temporary material world, we are there. We should simply just engage in the loving service to the Supreme Lord and not be unnecessarily to just be engaged in the loving service to the Supreme Lord. Actually. And then the Lord is saying in the verse, which again is the Lord is going to repeat in the chapter 18. The Lord says, the next verse, Manmana bhava madbhatto madhyaji mam namaskuru mamevyasi yukta vaivam atmanam matparayanaha. Engage your mind always in thinking of me. Become my devotee. Offer obeisances to me and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. In this verse, it is clearly indicated that Krishna consciousness is the only means of being delivered from this contaminated material world. Sometimes, unscrupulous commentators distort the meaning of what is clearly stated here. That all devotional service to be offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. Unfortunately, unscrupulous commentators divert the mind of the reader to that which is not at all feasible. Such commentators do not know that there is no difference between Krishna's mind and Krishna. Krishna is not an ordinary human being. He is the absolute truth. His body his mind, and he himself are one and absolute. It is stated in the Kurma Puran, as it is quoted by Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami in his Anubhashya comments on the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Deha Dehi Vivedoyam Nesware Vidyate Kvachit. This means that there is no difference in Krishna, the Supreme Lord, between himself and his body. Although this is sheer ignorance of the science of Krishna, some men make profit out of misleading people. There are some who are demoniac. They also think of Krishna but enviously. Just like King Kamsa, Krishna's uncle. He was also thinking of Krishna always, but he thought of Krishna as his enemy. He was always in anxiety, wondering when Krishna would come to kill him. This kind of thinking will not help us. One should be thinking of Krishna in devotional love. That is bhakti. One should cultivate the knowledge of Krishna continuously. What is that favorable continuation? Or what is that favorable cultivation? Bhagavad saying it is to learn from a bona fide teacher. Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we have several times explained that his body is not material, but it is eternal, blissful knowledge. This kind of talk about Krishna will help one become a devotee. Understanding Krishna otherwise from the wrong source will prove fruitless. One should therefore engage his mind in the eternal form, the primal form of Krishna, with conviction in his heart that Krishna is the Supreme. He should engage himself in worship. There are hundreds and thousands of temples in India for the worship of Krishna, and devotional service is practiced there. When such practice is made, one has to offer obeisances to Krishna. One should lower his head before the deity and engage his mind, his body, his activities, everything. That will make one fully absorbed in Krishna without deviation. This will help one transfer to the Krishna Loka. One should not be deviated by unscrupulous commentators. One must engage in the 9 different processes of devotional service, beginning with hearing and chanting about Krishna. Pure devotional service is the highest achievement of human society. The 7th and 8th chapters of Bhagavad Gita have explained pure devotional service to the Lord that is free from speculative knowledge, mystic yoga, and fruitive activities. Those who are not purely sanctified may be attracted by different features of the Lord, like the impersonal Brahmajyoti or localized Paramatma. But a pure devotee directly takes to the devotional service of the Supreme. There is a beautiful poem about Krishna in which it is clearly stated that any person who is engaged in worship of demigods is the most unintelligent and cannot achieve at any time the supreme award of Krishna. The devotee in the beginning may sometimes fall from the standard, but still he should be considered superior to other philosophers and yogis. One who always engages in Krishna consciousness should be understood to be perfectly saintly person. His accidental non-devotional activities will diminish and he will soon be situated without any doubt in complete perfection. The pure devotee has no actual chance to fall down because the Supreme Personality of Godhead personally takes care of his pure devotees. Therefore, the intelligent person should take directly to the process of Krishna consciousness and happily live in this material world. He will eventually receive the supreme award of Krishna. Presents the Bhaktivedanta purpose, the 9th chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, in the matter of the most confidential. So the living entity has this dual choice. You can either choose to prioritize Krishna, or you can choose to prioritize Maya. When one prioritizes Maya, then everything he sees is a material vision. That means that now even if he looks at temple, he looks at service, he looks at the devotees, he will see with the material vision. And when one prioritizes Krishna, then even material energy one sees with the spiritual vision. So when Prabhupada is talking about these unscrupulous commentators, actually, the problem is that they are not prioritizing Krishna. Actually, they are not trying to understand Krishna. They are prioritizing themselves actually. And therefore, even when they look at the Supreme Lord, what they are getting is hodgepodge understanding. And that's what Prabhupada quotes, that this was the problem with Kamsa. He was thinking of Krishna, but enviously actually. Because, so in this way, thinking of Krishna actually is basically seeing things from a material perspective actually, from the perspective of pivot of self-gratification. False ego. And this is what Kamsa was doing actually. And therefore Prabhupada is making a point. This is kind of thinking will not help us. What is required is devotional love, bhakti actually. So think of Krishna in devotional love. So, uh, so then Prabhupada is saying that that's why one should cultivate the knowledge of Krishna continuously. Continuous cultivation should be there. That is the best way to put it. Continuous cultivation. Prabhupada is making the point. And that means to learn from a bona fide teacher. So it's all a matter of prioritization. Who holds the greater priorities, our anxieties, our fears, or our contribution, our service? That's the point. So what we prioritize more, the other thing is seen from that perspective. Therefore, one of the definitions of humility is not to look at oneself much, to think less of oneself, actually think about others, think about the mission, to think about the Lord and His service actually, and not nothing very less about oneself actually. Less into thinking about oneself. Then humility, and that's what helps us progress forward. So therefore, it's explained here that uh, that in this way one should connect rightly to the right source. The right source is important, and one should connect rightly actually. So therefore, there is a requirement of cultivating our heart actually. In digging out our heart and cultivating our heart to see that our heart is we are taking in the right things. And yes, we need to be under the shower of mercy.